This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Good evening and happy Fantopia Friday, my friends. I would like to give a shout out to all of you who are in the chat room and who listen all over the world. Susan, Irv, Hoska, all of my friends, I appreciate you. And I also want to give a very special thanks to the anonymous donor who made a contribution to UFO Classified. That made my day, and I have to tell you, just for you guys to listen to the show and to be here and give me feedback is the most important thing, but that made my day. Thank you so much. I have had a really exciting day, and I have talked to the whole day. I've been engaging and talking to people that have made tremendous contributions in this field. It started off with James Clarkson, who was my friend from Washington State, and he's written a couple books. He's an amazing man. You can watch his lectures on YouTube. And then I talked to Chris Bledsoe, who, as you know, I've had him on the show before, both he and James. And Chris is a very gifted, grounded, beautiful human being. He's a wonderful guy. And then I spent the last couple hours before my show talking to two people that I really want to stress you need to know about and you need to follow. You need to understand the gravity of their work. And the first person is Barry Greenwood. Barry Greenwood has been around for a long, long time, and he is single-handedly, and actually with the help of a few other diligent people who care about preserving the history of this important subject. They have created an archive, and he has, to my knowledge, the largest archive in the United States of government documents, newspaper clippings that date back 50, 60 years. You can go find his great work at Greenwood Archives. And he also wrote a book that is a very pivotal, important book. If you get any book in this field when you're new to this, or even now, Clear Intent is the book to get. You can get that on Amazon. James Clarkson was talking about that and how that book pretty much set the course for him to move into this field and take it seriously. So please make sure you find that book, add it to your collection. Check out Barry Greenwood. And then my friend Paul Dean down under from Australia writes a blog called UFOs Documenting the Evidence. He has just completed a 3-part series about the U.S. military and their investigations with the UFO issue after Project Blue Book closed. He has new documents, and he will deal with that, and he has highlighted the involvement of the chairman, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, NORAD Commander-in-Chief, the Central Intelligence Agency, the Air Force Intelligence Service, and the Air Force Office of Special Investigation. So you need to, if you are looking for historical documents, these two men are the best in the world, and I really would recommend you following that. If anybody ever needs proof of what is happening, then I suggest you get good information. That good information sometimes is hidden because of all of the nonsense going on in our field, but you can find it, and I will help you do that. In a week, I will be interviewing Phil Mantle, and my show is going to be pre-recorded because I will be down in New Mexico with John Greenwald, Stanton Friedman, and Dave Marler. I am speaking at my first conference, and I am telling you, I have a big announcement that will change the way we do things in this field. And I'm also going to shake it up a little bit because that's what this field needs. So anyway, I hope you can make it to the conference. It's only $25 for a wonderful afternoon. I also want to say the week after, Fran Ridge and Challen Holt will be here. And Fran Ridge is the head of NICAP right now, another important source for information. So this is a treat. Fran Ridge does not do radio shows, and he will be here. This is another big thing, and I'm happy to share this with you. My guest tonight is a kindred spirit, and my friend Robert Spearing, who researches the orange orb phenomena, sent me an email and said, "Hey, have you heard about this guy, Ronny LeBlanc? You got to check into him. He might be somebody that we need to become friends with and work with." So I did a little research, and sure enough, Ronny LeBlanc is one of those people that I will forever be in contact with. And he has a brand new book out called Monsterland: Encounters with UFOs, Bigfoot, and Orange Orbs. This new book is centered on the history of Bigfoot and UFOs in Massachusetts, and talks about untold stories, history, and his interest in cryptozoology, science, and lots of other strange things. But this is really, really cool. I spent some time talking to Ronny on the phone, and these experiences he's had has changed his life like so many of us in this field. So Ronny, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you. Great to be on. Thank you so much, Erica.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be so much fun. How is your book doing?
It's doing great. I mean, just starting to really push, marketing it. Just did the New England UFO conference last weekend with Nick Redfern and Travis Walton. And then the previous week, we spoke at a BFRO event with Lauren Coleman and then James Fay from Finding Bigfoot. So the word's getting out there, and doing great shows like yours are helping to kind of spread the word. So it's exciting.
It is exciting. And I talked to Nick Redfern yesterday, and he was saying that he met you and he thought you were super cool. And awesome. So it's awesome. Yeah, no, he thought you were awesome, and he had a great time there. And it's so interesting to me to see how all of these topics intermingle. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. And what's interesting is a lot of people's research, people like Paul Eno, who's world-renowned ghost hunter, has been doing this for a long time, but his research is kind of tied into the UFO phenomenon, the Bigfoot phenomenon. And so I think all the different researchers' paths are starting to get crossed a little bit, and ones that were kind of shunning the others are starting to kind of look at each other's research and go, wait, this might be pieces to the puzzle we've been missing. So it's a really cool time, and then we might be seeing a paradigm shift here.
Oh, you know what? I think that we are, and it's been interesting to me to see that, and gosh, there's so many good people who have completely gone underground. And like I was talking to Paul Dean and Barry today, and they were talking about all of these people that have dedicated their lives to researching this and how they're passing away, and all of their files are getting tossed in the trash.
Ugh.
I know. Oh. I mean, it breaks your heart. And so for me, it's like, what can I do to get people's files and then make sure it's going to a good place so this is archived for all of us to use, all of us who are really serious about investigating.
Right. Oh.
I hope we can do that. But you've got a partner in crime that I wanted to talk a little bit about, because I've seen an interview with, and tell us about him.
So Bill Penning, who, interestingly enough, he's from Leominster as well. I've been born and raised in Leominster, and I lived in Southern California for almost 10 years, and then moved back home. But I met him literally a week before, actually his brother, a week before he found some interesting tracks in Leominster State Forest back in June of 2010. And I had met his brother, whose son and my daughter were in the same kindergarten class at the time. So it was during a drop-off that we were kind of talking, and discussed about living in California, and I told him about one of the best places ever was going to the Redwood National Forest. And I said, you go to a place like that and you see the enormity of the trees, and it just looks so prehistoric that you can kind of see something like a Sasquatch living out. He's like, what? A Bigfoot? Lost it, started crying, laughing. And it literally maybe 4 or 5 days later, he ends up calling me and says, you know what? My brother found some tracks. He's kind of freaking out. I think you need to go talk to him. And when he told his brother, he said, you're not going to believe this. Billy gave him a call and was saying, couldn't sleep for a couple of days because him and his wife were out for a summer hike. It was like 90 degrees, 95 degrees. There was no one else on the trails. And they had a decent, probably about an hour or so in. And they were trying to get close to the reservoir, and they took a path where he thought they were going one way, she thought another, and they kind of went maybe 10 minutes down and realized they took the wrong path in the fork. So they doubled back, and when they did, they saw these tracks in the ground. And as they got closer, they kind of looked at each other and looked, bent down and noticed that the tracks were actually human-like, and there were visible toes, and there were 6 tracks, and they came literally out of the woods onto the track and seemingly back into the woods. And what shocked Billy was the fact that they didn't see anybody. They just crossed this area and the tracks weren't there. And when they came back, here they are. So who's out running out barefoot, or who's doing this? But what scared him was he saw how deep they were, and over 3 inches deep. And that the stride was close to 6 feet wide per step. So he instantly grabbed a rock and bent down and started kind of freaking out and said, we got to get out of here. And he started his mind started getting flooded with the stories of Monsterland, where we would hear about these stories of kids encountering strange things in the woods or going out to party and riding four-wheelers and having these encounters. But he didn't really understand what was really all about, how that got its name. But I basically went back with him through Kevin. He would not go back in the woods unless someone would be carrying a gun with them. He was that terrified that whether it was some kind of wild man out there or some type of Bigfoot type thing, and he wasn't looking for anything like that day, but it was one of those things that just did not make any sense to him, and it took him, days to just even try to wrap his head around it. Maybe 10 days later, we went back and actually casted one of the tracks. We didn't have enough material to do all the tracks, but we basically realized, we put too much water in this thing and wasn't going to dry quick enough. And as we were waiting for that to dry, a pair of four-wheelers come barreling down the tracks, literally right in the way where if we showed up 10 minutes later, these tracks would be gone.
Oh my
gosh. Yeah, it was just very wild how the timing of everything. And so Billy and I and Kevin, we were all sitting trying to figure out what to do. And I remembered about how John Green who's a Canadian journalist that was a skeptic turned a believer up in Canada after investigating all these different Sasquatch and Bigfoot sightings, had cut the tracks that they had casted from a trackway they had found and pulled them out of the earth to kind of until that could dry, so it would be safe. And so that's what we did. Kevin had a knife and he cut it out. We had the box that we used, the plastic casting material. We slid it in and we took it out. But when I saw those, and I saw the straight line, and I've been reading about this kind of stuff since I was a kid, and when I saw the straight line that these were in, the steps, it sent the hair on the back of my neck straight up. And seeing the toes and the stride and how deep they were, and they weren't enormous. They were 10.5, 11, maybe 12 inches long, but the width was half as much, about 5.5, 5 inches across. So very thick. And when the casting material was completed, dried, you could kind of see that just looked funky. It did not look right.
Wow. So did you take any pictures of the tracks?
They initially had a very crappy portable camera. They did take some initial photos of the tracks. Took one close up so you can literally see the toes. They noticed at the time as well that there were deer tracks alongside of those footprints. And what?
Interesting.
Yeah, so it looked as if this thing was chasing a deer. So putting that in your mind, and there's been so many stories where people have seen Bigfoot chasing a deer, or seen them coming, having a deer slumped over their shoulder or whatnot. So there's stories that this is like a food source. So that was another weird, connection there that kind of layered into this thing. Like, we really dealing with, a Bigfoot type creature living out in the woods out here. So for me, it was exciting, but at the same time, I definitely was kind of like doubting this in the sense that this can't be real, But the fact that what he experienced and his fear, and he's over 50 years old. This is not an 18-year-old kid. That, and hearing him telling me the story and what happened really got piqued my interest and said, there's something going on here.
That is interesting. So what year was
this? Was 2010 in June, and I encouraged Bill to put a report online with the BFRO, which is the Bigfoot Field Research Organization, similar to MUFON, where people are reporting their sightings and they're creating a database. So you can go on there and look at stories and different encounters and read about those. So he put his up there. And then he was contacted by a gentleman who's Dr. David Brake, who's a PhD, bioengineering, owns his own company, Biotech, and actually happens to work with the Homeland Security Department. And he's out here coming to research and look into this. And again, we've kind of stepped back and said, all right, here's a smart guy, a PhD, who's taking this seriously. So again, and he told us, there's been some recent sightings in your neck of the woods maybe 6 months ago, another one maybe 8 months prior to that. I'm like, really? I couldn't believe. You always think Bigfoot, Sasquatch sightings West Coast.
Right.
You never really think East Coast, and there's definitely reports, but I just couldn't believe this stuff's going on in my backyard. This is pretty wild.
That is, and it's interesting because my organization here in Utah, we went out on a little adventure a couple weeks ago out to Mercer, Utah. It's this old ghost town. And in this area, it's a lot like where you are, where you've got UFO sightings, you have kind of paranormal things taking place, a lot of paranormal stuff, and then you've got Bigfoot stuff. And so it is interesting to me to see how, whether all of this is a portal and it's allowing stuff like this to happen, or whether it really is separate. I don't know, but there's sure a lot of evidence pointing towards there's something going on that is allowing all of these types of things to happen.
It's interesting how, you mentioned this area too, Monsterland, and the history of UFOs, and then the orange orbs, which is another thing we'll be getting into. But I was always fascinated even by an area in Massachusetts called the Bridgewater Triangle, which is in southeastern Mass. And similar, they have sightings of UFOs and Bigfoots and balls of light and orange fireballs, big cats, black helicopters. So what is going on, and how are all of these things showing up in that same vicinity? And then how are all these similar places across the country having the same phenomena happening? There must be some kind of, like you said, a portal. There's going to be some kind of thing that they're coming in and out of for this to kind of happen for me, because how many stories have we heard where they're chasing something and all of a sudden just disappears, and the tracks just stop? So there's something more to these. I don't think they're just a normal animal.
No, I don't. And that is really interesting to me. And even if it was an ordinary animal, I mean, my gosh, we are making new discoveries about our planet every freaking day,
Right.
And I think that at some point in time, we need to kind of get over ourselves and understand that there are many things that will be identifying and probably, obviously Bigfoot is going to be something we're going to learn more about. And I'm excited about that. And we don't need to, these aren't kooky things. These are really important.
Yeah, and there's encounters that involve police officers, military, reputable people, and a lot of stories have been, kind of kept in the dark. People haven't talked about them. I give Bill a lot of credit, Bill Penning, because he had the courage to kind of step forward and say, I don't care what people think. This is what happened. I'm not saying it is what it is. This was this or this was that, but it definitely seems to be quite odd, and it seems to kind of match up with some other stories, and the area does have activity and a history. And then what came after that, after his story was on finding Bigfoot, more people came out of the woodwork because they felt like they had someone that they could actually trust and talk to that had a similar experience, and they weren't going to feel like they're being made fun of or ridiculed. They feel like they can come forward and tell him. And those stories just only corroborated, his, and just makes you really scratch your head and just go, what are we really dealing with here?
Isn't that fascinating? And I've got a friend, we're going to get ready to take a break, but I have a person that investigates in Missouri and is just a brilliant researcher, and he's in an area like we are. And he has developed a real fondness and an appreciation for these Bigfoot-like creatures because they honestly do interact with him, and they are very benevolent. And so it's fascinating. This is something that we need to look at as well. And I remember being a small child and being fascinated by Bigfoot, and this just kind of reinvigorates me. It's neat.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it. Oh my gosh. And we're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, I want to talk a little bit about the history of the area and some of the sightings that you have talked about in your book, which is available on Amazon. So I would definitely go there. It's called Monsterland: Encounters with UFOs, Bigfoot, and Orange Orbs. Find it, buy it, and we're going to talk about orange orbs and all sorts of things when we get back. Yeah, so stick around, get chat, and ask your questions. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. 9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Where'd that shot come from?
Alpha 3 to Eagle 1. We've got company.
From Tay Publishing, codename Eagle Force. The saga begins.
I see them, Alpha 3. All units stay low and let them come.
From the eyes of a special ops officer, Joe Michael Riggy brings to life this amazing story of survival, the unknown and the unexpected.
Here they come. Hold your fire. Hold. Now.
Codename Eagle Force at TayPublishing.com.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
What if maintaining a healthy weight was as simple as drinking a cup of coffee? With Valentis coffee, it's that easy. Harvested from the world's most pristine coffee farms and packed with the purest ingredients on earth, Valentis takes losing weight to a completely new level. At Valentis, we believe everyone deserves a chance to be healthy and fit. It's pure, natural, healthy, and delicious. Click the Valentis Healthiest Coffee banner on the KCOR Digital Radio Network website and take the Weight Loss Guarantee Challenge. Valentis Coffee, simply the world's healthiest coffee.
When danger is imminent, will you be prepared? Now many mobile devices can bring you critical information from local sources you trust. With the unique sound and vibration, wireless emergency alerts keep you in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, for Hyperspace, the one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace, hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride?
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, everyone, and happy Fantopia Friday. I have to just for a second mention my fabulous producer and station owner, Tina Marie, who keeps this all together. I don't know how she does it. She is absolutely amazing. And she plays really groovy music. I was kind of chair dancing before the show started, but I'm amazed. I'm impressed. I'm so happy to be at a network with integrity and that supports me as someone doing this. So thank you, Tina. You rock. And I am back with my guest, who is a super, not smart, but a cool guy, somebody who has the same passion that I do and has done a lot of really, really great work. Ronny Blanc is the author of Monsterland, Encounters with UFOs, Bigfoot, and Orange Orbs. You can get it on Amazon. And Ronny, welcome back. I know this is going to go really cool places right about now.
Hold on.
So prepare yourself. I know it's really frightening, but with all of the Bigfoot stuff, I mean, tell me, how did you personally get involved with this, and did you have experiences at a young age?
When I was young, I used to love, going to the library and getting books on animals and science and anything that was just, I was always just fascinated by anything that had to do with that. And I remember walking by a certain section and I saw, like a book on Loch Ness Monster and then Bigfoot, and I think it was Mysterious America. It was like a book by Lauren Coleman. And then I started reading about these creatures that people said existed, in myth, but then were not proven to exist. They haven't been classified by science, and they're seen all over the world. And that got me so excited about that, and the fascination with what are these things, and at the time, and I think with everybody still now that believe a lot of these things are real animals. There's something different to them, and I think the Native Americans are kind of spot on, saying that they kind of coexist between the two worlds here. And that I got into that, and then I think I started getting into stuff with UFOs and any kind of paranormal, anything to do with ESP and telekinesis. All that was just. And I think that really ties into stuff with like the comic books and movies and Star Wars and stuff that as a boy kind of growing up, you're kind of bombarded with. But then there was just I think a stronger fascination with those elements of cryptozoology and the paranormal that just really never really left. There was a real magnetism with that and wanting to read everything I could get my hands on about it.
And I mean, did you ever in your wildest dreams think that you would have the kind of experience that you have now? Because you told me about some of those, and they're mind blowing.
I never thought I would, honestly, and just when I kind of start saying to myself, "Okay, this isn't real," or "This I'm done," something else happens, and it's like, "Whoa, what the heck?" And it definitely seems to have been increased since I've met Billy and since this kind of Bigfoot thing and kind of has taken off. But my experience, which weirdly enough I had forgotten, I grew up down the street from Fallbrook School, and behind there was a bunch of trails that led to the power lines that would connect to an area called Monsterland. Now, this area was, again, always talked about. You always heard Monsterland. Oh, we're riding our four-wheelers. We're going with our dirt bikes to Monsterland. And just thought it was a name that they gave it. Not knowing after a little more research of why and how that got its name. But for me, I used to ride my bike behind these trails, and I think I was maybe 10, 11, or 12 or so at the time, and riding my bike on the trail by yourself. And I was, Saturday or summer day where you're gone all day long. And I would go by a particular trail that just gave me the creeps. It really spooked me out. Just very prehistoric looking, but just had a feel and just looked, it could be the best day out, and it had like a dark cloud hanging over it. It had that kind of look and feel to it. But one day I was feeling, pretty brave, and I decided, I'm going to go down that trail. So it went into a little bit of an incline, so I had to kind of jump off my bike and walk it in and start walking on the trail. As soon as I get on there, I instantly, you just, that feeling like you're being watched, but not really aware of that at that young age, but just had a sense of fear kind of, and just kind of thinking that your mind's playing tricks on you. And so I started to kind of keep on going down the trail, and it kind of made a little bend. And then as I came around the bend, it seemed to kind of narrow down a little bit as I went forward, and I just stopped. I just stopped in my tracks, and I just looking forward and just trying to kind of make out what was up ahead. And really, I think at that point, reassessing, what am I doing? Get the heck out of here. But I just couldn't move where I was just looking straight ahead, and then the force just erupted, where I heard footsteps pounding on the forest floor that it reverberated through the soles of my feet. But when I looked forward, I see ferns and trees and like things moving basically in front of the trail, through the trail, but there's nothing there. It sounded like it had to be a deer or a moose even, but there was nothing there that I could see that was doing this. And I was just kind of frozen at that point. And basically, as soon as that kind of sound and that commotion stopped, I kind of regained my wits about me and just said, I gotta get out of here. And I jumped on the bike and I pedaled so fast home. It got locked in my mind as I grew older. And as I started hearing these other stories from people after Bill's encounter, I started to realize that, I think maybe I had some kind of encounter that, maybe it was a Sasquatch encounter.
Wow. Must have been absolutely terrified. And you probably were, like many of us are when we have sightings like this. You just try to rationalize things and I don't know. I mean, it's such a weird process to go through, especially at that age.
And it never ever entered my mind that it was a Bigfoot or Sasquatch at that age. It just had to be. It was a bear. It was a moose. What is in here? I knew all the animals in the woods, so I knew it was down to like a moose or deer or something that had the size to be able to do that. But it just didn't click and it makes sense. But it gets to the point where I think I just said, whatever. There was no other options for me to include in there as an answer. But then as I hear more stories, it's quite possible. And that area still seems to be getting activity to this day, weeks ago as well.
Isn't that fascinating? Do you find, or have you noticed that there is some sort of cyclical type thing that happens with this? Like sometimes we have in the Skinwalker Ranch area, the Uinta Basin, we'll have years of a lot of activity, or even in the Salt Lake Valley, and then years where it is really, really quiet.
I haven't really seen a pattern developing yet, but I have talked to BFRO investigators, especially the one, Jonathan Wilk, who heads up the group out here in Massachusetts called Squatchachusetts. And they've had over 250 reports right now that haven't even been checked. They don't have enough people to even cover these things. But they said the reports seem to drop as we kind of get into winter and then kind of pick up again in spring. But that could just simply be because people aren't going hiking as much during the winter months and not having as many sightings. Or they could be possibly, going underground or in caves or somewhere else. So I think it's definitely interesting. The activity seems to be kind of nonstop, though. Whether it's even other areas, other cities around, people are seeing UFOs and orange balls of light almost on a every other day basis. Reports are being, set up. So you start to scratch your head and just go, how can this continue to go on and people are not paying attention to this or noticing this?
I know, and that's the thing for me too. And when I had my series of orange orb sightings over the Salt Lake Valley, and I will say that I've seen them 3 months ago. I mean, this is something that takes place all the time in areas, and I think that I don't understand. Well, I guess with people not paying attention, with people wanting to take the easiest way out and say and dismiss to really, say, oh my gosh, this is an alien intelligence or something that we don't have the capacity of understanding. And that is a lot to process for somebody.
Yes, it's. I think something like that just shatters your worldview, that you have to kind of change your whole thinking about God, about everything. And some people will just not go there. They could have that and something happen right in front of them, and they probably would still not believe it and deny it. It's amazing to me, but I think there's something real there because too many people are having these experiences.
They are, absolutely. And it is, I had a guest a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Richard Haynes, and he's the chief scientist of NARCAP, and that he wrote a book a long time ago called Observing UFOs, and he talks about the dissonance and the way that people who have these sightings either choose to fully engage the topic or they're out because it's their way of their coping mechanism. And so there's so many different, I guess it takes there's a rare person that really wants to delve into this and get to the bottom of it and is willing to go out publicly and try to find out answers. So I commend you for doing that with everything you've seen.
Yeah, it's one of those things that there's days where I'm like, this is great, and there's other days I'm like, what am I doing? But it's definitely, I think, opened up a lot of doors. It's definitely opened up my mind to the vastness of the universe, but that there's just a lot more that's not being reported in mainstream news, and you can kind of understand why on some of these reports. But then also there's just so much going on. But I am amazed at the amount of stuff that's happening now with WikiLeaks as well, and Hillary Clinton, and Podesta, and Tom DeLonge, and UFOs. And
Lordy.
It's pretty wild.
And that is like such a crazy thing. And I was just mentioning, Dr. Haynes. I have to throw this in there because I think very few people know that with all the WikiLeaks stuff and Podesta and Clinton using the terminology UAP, that came from a meeting where Dr. Haynes, this was a couple decades, maybe 15 years ago, 10 years ago, met with Podesta, and there were others in the room, Leslie Keane, Dr. Jacques Vallée, and, Haynes came up with the terminology UAP. So it's really interesting to see Clinton using that terminology,
right,
and then to see all of these WikiLeaks come out about, Podesta and DeLonge and all of this stuff. This is a really cool time, and I bet in the next year or so we're going to find out more information, and this is going to work in our favor.
I think so. It just seems to be that it's coming to a point where something has to give. There's just so much interest around it. I think now too. I think they had the latest poll was 57% people believe in this UFOs, and it's pretty exciting times for sure.
It is, and I think, and one of the key points that I want to bring up in my talk in New Mexico is the fact that we need to really reframe the way we're dealing with this subject, and we need to stop saying, and I need to practice this as well, that this isn't a belief system, this is a fact. We have more documentation that we are experiencing some sort of intelligence that we don't have the capacity to understand, and that's been going on for a long, long time. And so I think once we begin to reframe the way we deal with it, it is going to make it easier for us to work with mainstream scientists and to work with the mainstream media.
I agree.
We'll keep our fingers crossed,
Yeah.
But we could do it. I mean, this like you said, it's all of these things are happening, and it's not an unusual thing. And the more we get out there and talk to people, the more we realize that a lot of people are having profound life-changing experiences. And, how do we get all of that information out? And I think with your book, you really did a brilliant job doing that. And I know from our conversation, oh my gosh, it's awesome that you're looking at the connections. You're looking at different areas in the world that have the same types of things happening, and you're doing what I'm doing. You're wondering what the parallels are.
Right.
And that's very, very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I love it. So we've got about 8 minutes before we take our big break, but I want to just say with regard to this, what are some of the things that you think are the commonalities? Like Skinwalker Ranch, like Monsterland.
Yeah, I find it very interesting that I've read about Skinwalker Ranch and the things that have gone on there, and there's definitely it seems to be a negative presence as well. Monsterland has the area itself has had that history, but there's also been some negative elements to the Leominster area. Back in '89, there was a barrage of suicides during that time, and Lauren Coleman, believe it or not, in his book Copycat, kind of covered and actually researched Leominster in looking for that connection. And his theory was that it was just simply a copycat. There were talks about satanic cults and people sacrificing. Leominster is part of the Underground Railroad, so there's that other element. The city, there's been houses that have been featured on every ghost hunting show that's on TV. They've been the Leominster. So there's that weird connection, and it has to do with, I think, spirit and interdimensionality, because there's some stories and encounters with Bigfoots that seem to disappear in a flash of light, or they're seen in and around balls of light and orbs. So there's another element to this. They've also been seen near UFOs and other strange lights and craft. So there's that weird connection, and these stories kind of get pushed to the side, and researchers kind of avoid them because of the bizarre nature. But I think those elements probably have some of the answers that we're kind of looking for, but they're pushed to the side, that we need to kind of bring them back to the center and kind of relook at everything again and say, okay, there is some weird thread here with this phenomena, and they seem to be coming in the same areas. So is it portals? Is it some kind of dimensional entity? So that's what I really try to dig into in the book.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I actually got it like 3 days ago in the mail, and so I'm going to spend the weekend just hunkered down in my really frightening pajamas and grab a glass of wine and then read this and start to make some connections. But for me, and we talked about this on the phone, what are the parallels between military installations, between Native American reservations, between mines and mineral deposits?
All three of those we have. We have Fort Devens, which is to the west of us, east of us rather, and very short distance away. There's all of Leominster and Lancaster was once Native American land, and it was considered sacred. And then also there's a strip mine in Leominster that's actually near Monsterland. So there's all those other elements as well that just kind of has all the ingredients of a Bridgewater Triangle, a Skinwalker Ranch, and some of these other sites.
Wow. And do you think that the military is definitely monitoring that area?
I have seen a weird boomerang type craft middle of the day. It actually looked like a flock of geese and flying in a V at first. And then when I was watching that, each element of that was not moving separately and moving around, but it seemed to be one craft. But the way it almost looked like it was cloaked, and those spots were actually where the lights would be. And it was silent. It was clear as day, flying right over, and not too far behind it were two military-looking jets following it. And this was maybe 2 summers ago. So I think they're definitely aware, and there's definitely been reports of jets chasing after these things or going up. And I've seen it with my own eyes, so I definitely know there's definitely some monitoring going on.
Isn't that incredible? Oh my gosh. And it's a little bit I don't know if it's spooky or comforting. It's like, okay, well, at least somebody's keeping track of me. But then you think, oh, is that a good thing? I'm not quite sure, but I mean, at least they're aware of the situation. Whatever they're doing with that information is interesting. And I think that, with regard to some of these objects, they definitely pose an aviation safety threat. And so I would hope that they would be looking into this and trying to figure out what it is.
I agree. I think that, just hearing about how it cannot be a threat baffles me. If these things are flying at the speeds that they're flying, and our jets aren't able to kind of catch up to them, I think that's an issue. So
it absolutely is, and that's I've been wondering how, especially with preparing my talk, it's like, how did we go from understanding the gravity of the situation back in 1952 when there were mass sightings over Washington, D.C.,
Sure.
and everybody was alarmed about that. How did we go from that to now this kind of circus-like environment where, we're all having parties and we're not concerned about obtaining funding or doing good research and figuring out what in the crap is interacting with us? I don't get it.
Something hasn't changed for sure.
Yeah, it does. And I think that it's our connection and networking and finding other people that are really concerned about this and want to share information and have good communication system. And I think we'll do that. But we haven't even talked about orange orbs, and I'm a little freaked out about this. I know. How could I let an hour go by without talking about my favorite subject?
We could do a whole other show on it. I mean, there's just so much out here. It's unreal.
I know. I cannot wait. And I might have to come back and visit you guys. And that could be really frightening for you, but
we'd love to have you. It'd be great.
Oh, that would be really fun. And so where are you speaking next?
Right now, I'm taking a little breather. So I have nothing kind of lined up right now, but I'm sure I'll be doing something probably in the next month or so, more likely after the first of the year, but we'll see what kind of pops up.
Okay, well, make sure you keep us posted because I will definitely share that with everybody, and I would love to get out and meet you. And I know that in some way or another, we're going to be working together to try to figure this out, and it's really, really exciting. So this is so cool. And when we get back, we're talking about orange orbs, just so you know, and then we're going to talk a little bit about, how this changes your life, your perspective, and everything, because that's important as well. This really does have a profound influence on the people who experience this. But I'm Erica Lukes, and I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. I love all of you guys, and if you're out in New Mexico, please come next weekend to see the UFOs, the New Mexico UFO conference. This is going to be really cool. Make sure you find me on Facebook and like UFO Classified. Tell people about it. If you missed the show, you can find archives on KCOR, and then I am rebroadcast on Z-Talk Radio on Saturday afternoons. We are going to take a break, and we will be right back.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Oh, happy Fantopia Friday, everyone. I hope you are ready for Halloween, because I'm certainly not. And I just want to say that this is the seventh sign of the apocalypse. I think this is the first year I have not planned out my Halloween costume 5 months in advance. So I don't know if I'm growing up or I'm becoming so enthralled by the UFO topic that I just, don't care about my costumes anymore. But I want to say that I appreciate all of you very, very much. Thank you for taking the time to listen on your Friday night. And after my show, we have Joanna Roth on Universal Child. And then my producer and pretty much the bomb, Tina Marie, Unrestricted Airspace. and then Hyperspace with Solaris Blue Raven. So it is truly a great night of talented women in this field, and I am happy to be a part of it. Next week, my show will be pre-recorded. I'll be interviewing Philip Mantle, who has just released a new book, and he has been researching this for a long, long time. He really is somebody I respect, and it'll be great to have him on the show. And then the following week, a big, huge event, Mr. Fran Ridge from NICAP will be on. So tell everybody about that. Let's call out the troops and listen to UFO Classified. My guest tonight is very cool, and somebody who just wrote a book that you need to get. It's on Amazon, called Monsterland: Encounters with UFOs, Bigfoot, and Orange Orbs. And speaking of orange orbs, let's talk about my favorite subject. I know, and it's Ronny LeBlanc, and you can go to his website. I just want to throw this in here, RonnyLeBlanc.com. So please go there and find out where he will be at the beginning of the year. But okay, so with all of the Bigfoot stuff, with all of the kind of paranormal stuff that's happening in this area, talk about the orange orb sightings in the same area.
Sure. My first experience with them, with the orange orbs, happened in December time period, like 2011, 2012. And it was right when the Finding Bigfoot episode was going to air on Animal Planet, that involved Bill Penning and myself with the track. And essentially, I'm driving home. I was working at the Boston Herald at the time as the director of digital advertising, and I was coming home off of Route 2, entering into Leominster. And again, wintertime, cold. I noticed these two orange, reddish balls of light, one kind of leading the other, floating from my left of my vision. Literally, it started flying over the car. And I was looking at these things, driving, trying to keep my eyes on the road, looking at them, wondering what the heck I'm looking at. And I rolled down my window and looked out, completely silent. And I didn't see any kind of, Chinese lantern bag or paper or anything like that. It was just these two pulsating balls of light that were silent. They flew right over my car, and they kept on going in the direction of Masspot Pond in Lunenburg, which is kind of a swampy area. And I was just startled. And when I saw these things, in my mind, the feeling and what I thought in my head was that I'm seeing something that's not from around here. That this is something that's really, this isn't something you see every day. And I got home, excited, told my wife what I saw. She was like, okay, not really understanding myself what the heck it was. So I jumped on my computer, and it was on Facebook, and I noticed a friend of mine had just kind of popped online. A little green light came on, knowing that he's online, and something possessed me to just shoot him a note. And the reason being is I've seen him post similar articles that I liked about UFOs and things like that. And so I sent him a little message and said, "You're not going to believe what I just saw coming home off of Route 2. These two orange balls of light just flew over my car. I've never seen anything like it." And I see him kind of typing back, and he responds in all caps. He's like, "You're blowing my mind." He goes, "Were you at the intersection of the Leominster Connector at 7:15?" And I was like, "What?" And it just happens to be that he was on the other side, kind of heading in the opposite direction at the same time, and he saw these lights fly over Route 2 at the same time. Now, what floored me next was finding out what his interest in the subject really is. And he was more than just kind of a normal armchair person, but he's an active UFO investigator up in New Hampshire. So that, to me, was just a weird synchronicity thing, kind of saying, how is it that I see this and I know to send a message to this guy that sees it at the same time, and then he happens to be a UFO investigator. And we ended up meeting and grabbing a beer A couple days after that, just kind of talking about everything. And that was my first experience. And I just kind of started having to know what the heck these things are. And that kind of just started this weird obsession of trying to find out what these orange balls of light are.
And I can completely relate to you on that front. I mean, it's crazy because, to me, when I first observed these things, I mean, I'm looking out over a densely populated area. I mean, it's right over Salt Lake City. This is in the flight corridor for the international airport. So how could people not pay attention to this? It was just mind-boggling to me. And I don't think that I've had the experiences that you have had where you've seen them. I mean, they've been in pretty close proximity to you. If I don't, yeah. I mean, what is the closest distance you've seen one of these?
They seem to have been, I've seen some smaller ones that have been, they've been about a basketball size. I feel like the ones that were the closest were the ones that kind of flew over my car. They just seem so low. I'm, probably a poor judge when it comes to estimating, distance, but I would say they're maybe 150, 100 feet above my car. So they were low enough that they got my attention, that they were in my field of vision through the windshield. They weren't so high that they flew right over. And the other instance that I had, the second time actually, was shortly after, I think a couple weeks later, Bill Penning and myself decided that we're going to go back to Leominster State Forest and the Granite Street entrance and kind of do a night hike. And we brought, we're poorly prepared, really feeble lighting, and just kind of halfway kind of down the trail and getting that, feeling of being watched. Like it's just, it's nighttime, we're going to be instantly spooked. So we end up kind of going back, turning back to the car, seeing if we had any additional flashlights, realize this is all we have. We're like, just pack it in. We're not even prepared to really do this. We just kind of felt the need to kind of get out there. So as we're sitting in the parking lot talking, Bill, our eyes have adjusted now to the dark, and he sees an outline of Bobcat Mountain, which is it's not a huge mountain by any means, but the outline of it you could see, and he pointed to it and said, "That's the spot where we need to go." Right at the edge there, he's like, no one goes all the way down that spot. And maybe 30 seconds, a minute later, this orange ball of light appears in the sky to the left of us. Just materializes. I don't know where the thing came from, but we have enough vision of the sky with being wintertime and there's no leaves on the trees that we can see this thing. And I instantly see it start moving towards the forest, towards Bobcat Mountain. So I grab his arm. I'm like, "What are you seeing right now?" He's like, "An orange ball of light moving towards Bobcat Mountain." I was like, "Okay, I'm not going crazy." And we watched this thing pulsate. And once it hit the edge of the woods is where it really freaked me out, because this was the same thing that I've seen with the two other ones flying above the car, over the car. So I know I was seeing the same thing again. And now was Bill kind of witnessing it with me. But once it hit the edge of the forest, it started to go into the woods and lit up the trees all around it.
Oh, wow.
So then I was like, holy, we're thinking, whoa, there was no blinking lights, with just this constant orange-red, ball. And it goes through the trees. It hovers right above the spot that Bill pointed at. And for a second, it hovers and it goes straight down on the ground. We both looked at each other and we're just like, what
I would say so.
And we, again, didn't wait. We jumped in the car and got out of there and just spooked us out. So that was the other element here, where are they listening? There's some kind of, we're talking about this spot and this ball of light appears and goes right to that same spot, and we just happen to be talking about Bigfoot. So then I started going, okay. I started seeing these, lights a week before the episode comes out, and is there some kind of connection to these balls of light to Bigfoot? I'm starting to kind of wonder in my mind here, what does this all mean?
And that is, it's fascinating to me. And I think that even in this UFO stuff, when you start seeing these orbs, there is a very definite conscious connection. And from what I have found out and what I've experienced personally, once you get them on your radar, you have an experience, it's something that is always there. And there are times that people definitely talk about interactions or intuitive things like this happening. And that is a fascinating, frightening, exciting aspect of it as well.
Right. It tells me that there is some kind of intelligence behind it. There's something more to this than just ball lightning. Because I've seen these things in broad daylight. I stumbled upon Terry Ray's book. It was the only literature I could really find at the time about orange orbs. So I started reading about the different stories and about his experience and some of these others, and how they happen to seem to show up during fireworks. And so we had gone to Starburst, which is normally right around the 4th of July, that they have, the city puts on free fireworks at Doyle Field, and pretty huge event. They happen to have this, I think, a week prior than the normal time period. And it was just, dusk, and you could still clearly see the sky. And fireworks had not gone up yet. They had a band on stage. And I brought my kids, and I had binoculars with me for some reason. And all of a sudden, here comes this orange ball of light moving across the sky. Everyone's facing the stage, but we were kind of turned facing the other way and see this thing go across. So I pull up the binoculars, I look through the glass, and I see just this ball of light. There's no bag, there's no Chinese lantern. It's just a ball, orange and reddish, fiery ball of light moving across. I watch it, and then it seems to almost go behind some kind of a door. It just disappears. I'm like, what the heck? And my friend is watching it with me, and he sees the same thing. And just like, did you see that? The thing just disappeared. And maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes later, here comes another one. Same path, same thing, and disappears.
Oh. You say that, holy crap, I just have to just tell you, because that makes me really happy, because I have actually videotape of the same thing. These objects in one location going up and then hovering for a couple minutes and then moving off in the same direction, and then 2 minutes later, same thing, right in the same place. It was truly staggering to me. So that makes me happy that you said that.
And there was 3 of them, and they seemed to follow that same path, and that's what freaked me out too, because that pattern was kind of, with Terry Ray saying the same thing, where they kind of seemed to follow that same trajectory, and some would go another path, but there was something behind this. It blew my mind. We just recently normally we go to the Cape every summer for vacation for like a week, Cape Cod. And we ended up staying at the Three Seasons Resort. It's really like a motel, but a nice big courtyard. There's about 60 different units that are there. And there's a bar right on the beach, and you're right on the water. And it was during the day, and we had been there for half the week so far. And I had just thought, in my mind earlier that day, I'm like, oh, what would be really cool is to see some, balls of light, orange orbs over the water. And just in my mind, starting to kind of doubt this whole thing. And like, is this real? Like, what is really happening? And later that night, my wife and I were on the deck. We're on the second floor, sitting there, and I'm facing the water. She's facing me, so her back is to the ocean. And it's probably 10:30 or so at night, And notice there's one table that was out on the courtyard of the grass, and there's about 10 people sitting around in a circle. And they were the only ones out there, and they were off kind of to the side. I looked around, we were the only ones out on the porch on that second floor, all the way around the entire resort. And as we're talking, they moved the table and literally moved it right below us. And I'm like, what are these guys, what are they doing? So we stopped kind of talking in our normal tone, kind of like almost whispering. I feel like, are these guys listening? What's going on? And as we're sitting there, here comes two orange orbs coming from the left to the right, one following the other. Same thing how I first saw them flying over my car. And I told Amy, I said, turn around. No, turn around. No. She turns around. She's like, son of a. She's like, unbelievable. And I said, are those Chinese lanterns? She's like, they're not. She's like, you know what those are. And I said, oh my gosh. So I get so excited. I'm watching these things move across, and I run downstairs because I know that there's going to be more coming, more following them. And so I run down to go get my binoculars out of the truck. And as I go across the courtyard, I look back at the table, and they're all watching the two orbs flying across the ocean. But then I notice they have cameras and they have binoculars. And one of the guys is like, what the hell is that? And I said, oh, those are orange orbs. And he's like, what? I said, hold on one second. And I ran to the car, and I had printed my first copies of the book. So it came back, and I handed it to the guy. And one of his friends took off running. He saw the book title about orange orbs and took off running scared. And what was amazing to me as we're sitting there, here comes two more orbs following the same path as the previous two. And I'm like, here they come. And they are freaking out. But one thing I didn't kind of mention is earlier in the day when I had that feeling of I wanted to see these things again, I said it would be nice to have other people see them as well, not just me, to kind of validate this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's all these people. And they just happen to be, we're 3 hours away from Leominster. They just happen to be from Winchington, Gardner, and Fitchburg, which is like the next towns over. So they literally saw these things the night before and decided to come out again that night with cameras and binoculars, hoping to see him again.
Oh, and the synchronicities.
It's unreal.
And I mean, how do you, because there are people that are listening to this, and I've dealt with people like this, in organizations and things that want to write these things off as Chinese lanterns. And how did you differentiate between a Chinese lantern and something truly anomalous?
They're just so distinctly shaped, and the way they move and the manner that they move, but how they look is just unmistakable. And again, just that weird connection to consciousness or intent or, thought, that they just happen to show up, then, and it's the timing of things. It's just another element that just screams at you that this is something a little bit different. And again, another instance was, 2 weeks prior to the conference, the New England UFO conference. Bill was over, and we were doing a presentation on Bigfoot encounters in the area the night before, and then we were going to speak again on Saturday, and they asked us to put together another presentation. So I said, what the heck are we going to... I guess we'll maybe do something on orange orbs. And as we're sitting there kind of talking about that, Billy stands up, and I look at him, and he's kind of, let's go outside. And okay, so we walk outside, go out on my porch, and as we walk down the stairs, I look up, and there's 3 orange orbs hovering in the sky. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, go back inside, grab my phone. We're going to film this. So my phone's charging right by the door. He grabs it. We run back out. And I started filming. And I have this. I'll have it on the site shortly. But it's very, I was upset because what I was looking at and then what you film just looked like two different things. But was amazing. It was very cloudy and misty out. And these things were just hovering in a triangle formation, just right for us to see. And they hung out for maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and the lights would move, like they would almost come close to each other and almost cross paths and then move back. So you kind of like, whoa, that's not the wind blowing lanterns all in the same direction. They were moving in different directions, but then staying in this formation. And then one by one, boom, they blinked out.
And, I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, I've had to go up with the orange orb thing. I mean, we've had to really make sure that when we're talking about it, we are addressing the Chinese lantern thing. And what we found with all of our research is that, I mean, Chinese lanterns are not capable of hovering in place for 15 minutes at a time. Like you said, they're not capable of moving in formation unless, I mean, there are circumstances where they are, but fuel cells burn out in a specific amount of time. And when you're looking at Chinese lanterns, I mean, there's just so many different characteristics. And also when you photograph them, the way you see the signature, the heat signature, you can tell. I mean, there's a flame at the bottom and it's different at the top. And so I think that at some point in time, we have to understand that this is truly anomalous and that people are studying this. And I look at and point to Erling Strand and his team that has been really, really scientifically studying anomalous light phenomena for 30 years. And we're going to take, on that note, I can hear that music. I'm just talking, but we're going to talk a little bit more when we get back. You guys take a break, and the best is yet to come.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
3 guys, no ties.
Satan's daughter's in town right now. So
thought it felt a little warmer than normal.
So that's why it's getting warmer.
I know, huh?
Thermometer stopped working.
Man.
Hopefully she's in her castle, wherever that happens to be, with her.
Yeah, she'd be over in Trump Towers.
What? She's in Trump Towers. That'd be hilarious.
Trump Towers. I'm sorry, man. I'll make it find you with Trump Towers.
3 guys, no ties. Wednesday night, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific. Right here on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Should we tell him the news?
I think we should tell him.
It's all right.
It's all right. It's all right.
Thursday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern. It gets hot, really hot.
You behave. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
Come listen to the Core Sports Report hosted by Devin Dodson and Bob Lake as they break down the current scores, sports betting lines, and spreads. The Core Sports Report, whether it's pro or college sports, they have it covered.
Who are we talking about?
The Core Sports Report, live Thursday, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The only guys I trust to give it to me.
Yeah. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
When it comes to sports.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about. At least, not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light into Hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, for Hyperspace, the one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace, hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Want to take a ride?
This is the world famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I say this every show, but if you could hear the conversations we have while we're off the air, it's just amazing. But we're going to share some of those with you. I mean, we were talking about orange orbs. We were talking about the fact that they're coming by people's windows and they're experiencing really profound things. They're automatic writing. I mean, tell us a little bit about that, what you and me and Tina were talking about with the orange orb.
Yeah, so Becky Andrezian, for people that may know or may not know, is Betty Andrezian, who's known for being abducted, had her first UFO or alien experience in Leominster in 1944. She was really young, and it was a small, marble-sized ball of light that kind of fixated itself to her forehead, and she heard a voice telling her that she's almost ready. And her experiences, Raymond Fowler has written 5 different books about her experience, as well as her daughter Becky. And when Becky was in Westminster, I believe in the 80s, she woke up in the middle of the night and there was an orange ball of light that was hovering outside her window. And suddenly this beam of light shot from the orb and hit her. She screamed. Betty came upstairs and the light had disappeared. But from that point forward, Becky was able to start automatic writing or spirit writing after that experience. And her what she wrote really matched what the Shakers and had kind of the same kind of language or writing that they had seen before. So, and we talked earlier too about Fort Devens. Doing some digging as well, I found that there was actually orange orb sightings back in 1952 over Fort Devens, that they flew over the base, over the airport at the time, and that airport officers and a couple other witnesses saw this. They flew kind of in one at a time, 2 at a time. Some went west, some went east. But they literally flew over the base, and they had no idea what they were in 1952. So it's been going on for, I think, longer than we think they had been seen.
And you know what, you say that, and that just it makes the hair on my body stand up, because I have been talking to Barry Greenwood, who is actually Barry Greenwood and Paul Dean have been sending me documents about the Washington, D.C. flap in 1952. And I mean, there were sightings all over your area, as you know, as well. And they were the same types of things. And so we need to talk.
Yeah. And, it's interesting too is The orange orbs have been kind of in the UFO kind of research, and maybe not being as pronounced as they should be, but Incident at Exeter, written by John Fuller, when he was doing the research up in New Hampshire area, which is just a little north of us here, there were sightings of these orange balls of light. And one of the teenage girls that he interviewed that had witnessed one of these said that it was shooting across the sky and a jet was chasing it and trying to catch up but could come nowhere near it. So they've been here for a long time, and apparently we can't even keep up to them. So
No, we can't. And I mean, this brings me, I have to go back to NARCAP again because, NARCAP has been researching with Ted Rowe and Dr. Richard Haynes, who worked for NASA. I mean, they've been researching the UAP phenomena, specifically this type of orange orb, the orb spherical type sightings with relation to aviation safety and the way they interact. And oh my gosh, I mean, the research they've done, I mean, they did research on the O'Hare case, but there have been these types of objects that have most definitely interfered with aircraft and definitely pose a risk. So all of these things are tying together. So how do we get all of these different reports and different researchers together so we can share information and then work on everything that we all know to try to figure this out? I don't know, but we need to do something because it's alarming, it's exciting, and we need to take it seriously.
Yeah, and I think there's layers that have been, these sightings have been reported, but I think there's so much that has not been reported or even talked about that is out there that as people start to see more of these stories come out, that I think people will start sharing, similar to the Bigfoot stuff as well. So I'm hoping that that's going to be the case, that we're going to see more and more stories of people coming forward with these things, because I think there's definitely a lot of those out there.
Absolutely, there are, and it's really cool. And we're going to have to compare notes when I have some downtime. But I mean, I've been asking Barry and different researchers for historical archives on places like Marfa, Texas, and the Brown Mountain area, and the Min Lights in Australia, and just trying to compile a whole group of archives. And that's something that I want to share with people because it's going to help all of our research.
That's awesome. Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
I know. I mean, it's the coolest thing. And I think having experienced them like you have, we know that they're there. We understand that they are definitely picking up on something, and there's an intuitive component to this. And I have to ask you, because I'm sure you've heard about this, but recently we saw, and I believe it was in Washington, there was a video that was released of an object, an orb, that appeared to be dropping something out of it, another sphere. And I know here in Utah, we had a situation where Dugway Proving Ground, it was on lockdown, and the citizens that were outside in a small town witnessed the spherical object that was dropping another object towards the ground. And so have you heard anything about those types of sightings?
I have, and there's actually a video, I think it was maybe 2014, that was in western Massachusetts. Again, another area, Mount Greylock, that has Bigfoot, October Mountain, Bigfoot sightings, UFO sightings, these balls of light. And there was a situation out there where basically a ball of light, which in the video was white, and then from that, smaller balls of light started to come out one by one, and they lined up right below, basically making a formation. And you can find this on YouTube. But what I found interesting is I was listening to the audio, and again, when these videos come out, there's everyone saying, "Oh, this is CGI," or "This is faked," and whatnot. as I was listening, I hear a girl in the background say, "Oh my God, they're orange," and I was like, "Oh, what the heck?" You're seeing them as white, but then she's saying they're orange. I was like, "Oh my God!" But yeah, so that's I've seen that video, and it looks like it could be real, but again, it's on the fence with the quality of stuff out there today, but.
And that brings up another good topic. I mean, we do see people that hoax things and the CGI and yada yada yada. And it's important to call that out and to raise awareness. I would really, I wish that people that were photographic analysts and experts in all of this would give us a video where they're explaining how we can determine whether this is CGI. And I've heard a lot of talk, but I haven't heard anybody produce anything that could actually educate us with regard to that. And I also think that we kind of swung the other way, and we're so interested in debunking stuff now that we're missing a lot of people that have good quality stuff that shouldn't be dismissed.
Right. Yeah, I think it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. You could have the quality's either so bad that what is it? I can't even see anything in there. And if it's so good, then it has to be fake.
Right.
There's no middle ground. And so I think you definitely have to take that into account that these things can be faked. But if they're not, let's put that to the side for now and say that's a possibility. But what if it's not? Let's look at this and determine if it isn't, if this is truly real. And we need to have more, I think, education on how to determine that with the quality of digital cameras now and editing and software. People can definitely manipulate images and video. So
they can, and oh my gosh, that it breaks my heart. But then I know that there are people that I've met all over the world that are really investing in good equipment, infrared technology, and the prices are coming down, so it makes it really affordable. But these are people that, like us, or certain areas, they're seeing repeated patterns. And so I came up with the idea along with Charles Lamoureux, who is a Canadian researcher and my friend. He's got a new film out, a Canadian documentary. I'll give you guys the link on my website. But he has all of this amazing equipment, and the captures he has had, I mean, they're unreal. And so we have been brainstorming and trying to figure out how we can develop protocols for people that are out there doing this, recording night after night. So we're collecting good data. But oh my gosh, if we could do that and we could find a good database, and then also know that we're going to be transparent with this, that we're actually going to analyze the data and then provide something, I think this could be really, really huge.
Yeah, there's the Broad Institute out here, which is MIT and Harvard and a bunch of research scientists working together, collaborating, and their focus is obviously on diminishing certain diseases and things like that. But that same model needs to be kind of applied in this field as well, that we could be collaborating and working more, I think, efficiently together to speed up that discovery process. By collaborating more so than just stop the fighting, but kind of sharing the data, sharing the stories, and like you said earlier, is look for those patterns, because I think that's where we're going to start making some ground on finding out what this is all about.
I do too, and I think that when I talk to people like you, I feel very inspired, because I know that you and I are both doing this for the same reason, because we've had profound experiences, and because we care. And there is nothing, we're not doing this for ego. We're doing this because we understand the importance of the work. And Charles is the same way. And there are many others out there that want to do this, and they don't, care about making money or having TV shows or different things. And I think that's so important. And so let's make a promise that we're actually going to do this, because I honestly feel like we could have a really great impact on things.
I agree. And it was very, and I do promise we'll make this happen. It was hard for me to kind of put this stuff on paper, these experiences that are very, personal, because you worry about ridicule and people making fun of you and things like that. But it was one of those things that's like, this is just too bizarre and weird that I need to kind of put this out there. And then as I start hearing other people's stories, it just kind of, and talking to people like you, you kind of go, okay, there's something to this whole thing, and that you're on the right track. And it just, I think it just more and more stuff is going to be revealed as we move forward here too.
And that, I mean, when you say that, and I want to tell you that I look up to people like you and commend you for your courage, because it is a really hard thing, and you don't know how people are going to treat you in your community, or how this will affect your job or your family. Right. And these are all really important things to consider before you come forward. And so, good for you for doing that and giving other people inspiration, letting people know that it's okay to talk about these things. And that's such a powerful thing. Congratulations.
Thank you. No, I think hopefully it opens, more doors for people to start talking about it and share their experiences. That was the plan, that hopefully it kind of creates a domino effect and kind of spreads as far as it can go, and people start sharing their experiences.
And they will. And you've seen that. And I'm sure like every time somebody comes up to you and tells you their story, you probably feel like I do. Do you overwhelmed?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And some of these people, I don't know if I'm sure you've had this experience where some of these people are telling you things and they haven't even shared it with their own families.
Right. And, you feel privileged and honored for them to tell you these things and share these experiences with you. And then you start to realize, you have a responsibility here to kind of help, them kind of go through this, or at least point them in the right direction on things to start reading or things to start looking into. And there's I think a reason why people are seeing these orange orbs, these balls of light. I think there's a greater significance and purpose. Maybe for the people that are seeing them, there seems to be a correlation with researchers into this phenomenon, whether it's Bigfoot, UFOs, even ghost hunters. I mean, there seems to be some kind of connection to these things, to those people that are looking into it. So that's scary in itself,
right?
But also pretty cool. So.
And do you feel like this has been something does it frighten you at the end of the day, or do you feel like whatever this is just monitoring, or do you feel like it's protecting you? I mean, what is your take on that?
I think initially I don't think I've ever really had a fear of it. It's definitely been, I think, shocking and kind of hard to kind of comprehend. But I have not felt in fear or in harm's way. But it has made me really start to wonder about how the universe is and how everything is kind of, what are we really living in here? So it's definitely shaken up my worldview. I think I've become more spiritual and more in tune with nature since all these experiences. And so I think that there's a connection to that too. I think there's an interesting aspect that the Native American land, where a lot of these encounters and experiences are happening all around the country, were considered sacred. And there's a reason for that. And I think we're starting to understand that a little bit more now, and starting to delve more into the topics like of shamanism and things of consciousness. But my path now is definitely kind of going more and learning more about the Native American tribes that lived here and some of their stories and myths that may not be as myths that we think they are. I think they hold some answers to all this.
And I absolutely agree with you. And that's another part of this that just is so intriguing. And how could people not want to know about this? Because not only are we learning about our natural environment, but we're learning about different cultures and belief systems. And oh my gosh, I think that it's so deep and so multi-layered. And I think, wow. And with the Native American stuff, I mean, we have a lot of, we've got the Utes, we have Navajo and the Array Indians here. And I want to know everything I can about them because they are so spiritual and so connected and have so many stories to pass on and to tell. And they really have a reverence for the land.
And, and they're in the spotlight now, too, with the Dakota Pipeline and all the tribes coming together. And it's interesting because I kind of touch upon that, unbeknownst at the time in my book about, the Rainbow Wars, the Rainbow Children, and that kind of prophecy. And we're in the middle of that now, where you're seeing all these tribes coming together and working together to protect these sacred sites, the land that's considered sacred to them. So I think that's interesting how that's seeming to happening now during this whole craziness that's happening with the presidential election.
Oh, Lordy.
It's amazing.
I know there's a lot of upheaval right now, and whatever's going on is kind of forcing us to reassess where we're coming from spiritually and morally, and how we treat our environment and people in the environment. And I think that we're going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly is going to be separated out here pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. I hope so.
I know, I do too, and I hope it works out for us, for people that are actually nice. But I don't know. We just have to be conscious, and I love the fact that you follow that. And please make sure you let me know what's happening in your neck of the woods with regard to that. And I'm really excited to learn more and to talk to you and to communicate. And then we'll get the thing going on with Charles. And if any of you are out there and you're listening, please, reach out to me, reach out to us, and let us know that you've had experiences and get some good equipment, get some good night vision equipment, learn how to take photographs at night. It's hard. I'm still struggling with that, but then we can all work together and create an international, global community and try to be a bit more proactive with the way we research this. I think that it's imperative that we do that.
I agree. It'd be awesome.
I know. I'm so excited. This is going to be great. But please, so you're going to do you're going to go pick up the speaking circuit again after the holidays and all of that stuff. But what else are you going to be doing? Are you writing another book?
I am. I am working on another book now. Just kind of getting started after the dust settled over the past 3 weeks or so. But it's kind of continuing on from where I left off, but I think it's going to go in a couple other areas. Like we talked about, as soon as you open up one door, it's like 5 other doors open up.
Yeah.
The Native American piece, the ley lines. So I'm going to start kind of in shamanism, kind of going in that direction as well.
I'm so excited for you. And, we didn't even get to talk about the fact that when you have these experiences, it does change you. And I feel like you do, that I want to be a better person and more connected and more active in the world and saving it. It's just,
right.
Oh my gosh, we have to become engaged human beings, and I think that not only in the UFO topic or the Bigfoot topic, but just making sure that we're respecting the world. I don't know. I could get really deep here, and I promise I won't do that.
But I think you're spot on. Is that there needs to be a reconnection with nature, and I think people are kind of waking up a little bit more on what's really more important. And we're killing the earth, and people need to kind of change habits. We're going to change our direction.
We do. And I think that if we form a community, we're going to do it together. And it's going to be a lot more powerful than us just trying to do it by ourselves. So thank you Ronny, oh my gosh, thank you
Thank you so much.
And everybody go to Amazon. Monsterland Encounters with UFOs, Bigfoot, and Orange Orbs is a great book. And then tell everybody where we can find you, your website.
Yeah, so you can go to RonnyLeBlanc.com. It's RonnyLeblanc.com. And I'll have updates there on upcoming events that I'll be speaking at and any other things that are kind of popping up, sharing, recent encounters as well.
Oh, that's so awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm excited to have you back, and we'll be connecting, and I'll give all of you guys updates about that. Remember that next week is a pre-recorded show with Phil Mantle, but you can send me questions for him because he's a really important figure in this world of UFO research. And just know that if you can be in New Mexico, please come down and support me. I'm so excited. I'll give you updates. Thank you so much for supporting UFO Classified. I am here for all of you, and we are going to continue to grow and form a community, and this is going to be a really positive experience for all of us. Have a great night. Stick around for Universal Child. I'll see you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network.